Hey there.
Hi.
How are you?
Okay, well, welcome to Read It Again Bookstore. This is Kim McNamara, and we're here with Tracy Solheim. Hi.
Hey there.
I've got a little, okay, that's better. Okay, so Tracy is a longtime customer of the store and a longtime friend, and little known fact, one of her first books that she wrote, she actually dedicated to us and the staff here, and I love that, and I like to brag about it. Tracy's got a new book that just came out. When did it come out?
Thursday.
That's it right there. So let's see here. Tracy, you got your bachelor's degree from Tennessee. So, okay, first we're going to talk a little bit about Tracy, and then we're going to talk about her book, because Tracy's background leads into the book. So,
yeah,
it's cool. You'll like this. Okay, so Tracy, you went to Tennessee.
And
go Vols. Can you tell us about what degree you got at Tennessee and where you ended up?
I got a degree in journalism while I was there at their School of Communications. While I was there, I worked for the school newspaper, worked for a sorority magazine, and then I also was an intern and a co-op student with the U.S. General Accounting Office, which I think is now called the Government Accountability Office. But they are one of the 4 agencies of Congress that does reports and testimonies for looking at different services. So I started writing for them and doing investigative work for them when I was in college, and that's where I went afterwards.
So you spent a good bit of time. Now, your new book takes place where?
This book particularly is in DC. It's also in a little town that I kind of made up called Watertown, but it's based on some of the towns in coastal Chesapeake Bay area of Maryland. But a bulk of it takes place in the White House, and then a couple other areas in Washington that I kind of hung out. They were kind of hangouts for me when I was living there.
Okay, and this is the third in a series, right?
This is the third book in a series. It is the last book on my contract, although I've gotten a slew of letters this week that would like to see one of the characters who happens to be a real person, named after a real person, not based on a real person. They would like her to have her own book. So if my agent is watching, we're going to talk about that next week, but I'm under contract for something else. So
okay,
let's squeeze it in.
The first one in the series, I remember you talking about this book like long time ago.
Yes.
Like you were like, I'm going to write this book at some point, and it's going to be about an FBI agent and a bakery person, right?
Yeah. So what happened was, people ask me all the time where I get my ideas. And this happened to be, I was watching the news one night, and it was a DEA agent. Actually, this guy comes on. Oh, he was very good looking. And I was like, wow, I didn't know DEA agents or any kind of agent looked that good. He had the really cool hair and everything. Turns out he was a real guy, and I did cypher stalk him for a while. Fortunately, there is no restraining order. But half an hour later, my son comes down and he turns on like some Sports Center show. It's Pardon the Interruption with Tony Kornheiser, who is a columnist for the Washington Post and one of my favorite people. I had him as a adjunct professor. Really cool dude. Anyway, his daughter had just gotten a job as a pastry chef in one of I think the Willard Hotel in DC. And I thought, wow, wouldn't that be cool to put a DE agent or some kind of agent and a pastry chef, and they're on the run for something. So the idea percolated for years and years and years until I finally was able to have a break in the contemporary romance and move over to romantic suspense and write the book. And I said it in the White House because there's just so much cool history in that building. It was one of the easier ones to research in DC. And we made them Secret Service because there weren't a lot of books about Secret Service agents at the time. So
yeah. So there are 3. Okay, so these are about 3. Okay, so there's the brain.
This book is the brain. And then the brawn would have been Shot in the Dark. And that's a cool one too. He's a sniper in the president's. It's the counter assault team that goes before the president goes anywhere. They send people out to secure the area, and he's one of the snipers. And just to make it more annoying, I put him together with a woman who is just anti-hunting, anti-guns, anti-everything. And the two of them clash from the get-go, which is a lot of fun when you're writing a book. You want to have as much conflict with the characters that isn't too over the top, but you want to have something where they're not normally drawn together. I think it makes, especially in a romance or in a suspense, it makes it a little more fun. But so that's why the second one, so he was the Brawn, and then the Beauty would be the first one. Griffin, he was one of my favorite characters because he has the dimples and he's always kind of getting his information just by, his good looks and charming people. So, but the three of them were together. I think I had them at West Point, and so they've known each other forever, but they're in three different parts of the Secret Service. They never really worked together in the Secret Service.
And before you wrote these, you wrote sports, and I know sports has your family are big sport fans.
We're big sports fans, and I worked for NBC Sports for a time. I worked at the Olympics, and then I've done a couple things with them since then. My son worked for the athletic director at South Carolina. I mean, I've always done, sporting things, and I always wanted to be a sports writer when I graduated. That was kind of always my goal. But in 80 something, there weren't a lot of women in sports at that point. I was 10 years, probably 15 years before my time. So I had a good job with the government. So my parents were like, no, ESPN was just starting. And they were like, no, stay where you are. So it's kind of my pipe dream. I kind of can live vicariously by writing about sports.
So what was the Olympics like? When were you were in
1988. And I worked for the late night show. Bob Costas was the host, and it was awesome because we were on 5 o'clock at night, or no, 3 o'clock at night in Korea. So we were on, I think, at midnight here, but we were on at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, in Korea. So I could work like a normal day, 5 a.m. to 5 p.m. That was the shift I wanted. But we had a lot of fun. I was in the studio pretty much the whole time until a couple of events. I got to mic. Ken Burns has a series about those Olympics, the 1988 Olympics, and there was one scene where Janet Evans was winning her gold medals, and that night we were there, and he had me mic his parents. So I got to sit with her parents. I got to sit with her parents when she was winning her gold medal, and do the sound mic with them. And it was a lot. It's just so cool to watch them watch their child achieve this awesome goal. So that was one of my best memories of the Olympics. It was a fun time. It's a fun group of people, and television is crazy, crazy, crazy. So. It was a little too crazy for me.
You ever think about writing a series that takes place behind the scenes of television?
I just we just binge watched the morning show last week. I was like, this would be kind of a fun thing to do. And I think I'm doing a sports series again. There is a possibility that maybe 4 or 5 books in the future, if this continues on, we could see them more someone as a color announcer, on a television show. And I'd love to do something like that because the behind the scenes stuff is crazy
and intense.
Lots of fun stories from that.
I think you'd have a lot to draw on. And there's always, everybody wants to see behind the scenes. Everybody wants to know what's going on. They love the drama. There's some really good TV shows. Oh, we have a comment.
Yes.
Let me switch over. Oh, hi, Robin.
Hey there.
What else I wanted to ask? So you have 12 books out.
Yes.
Can you name all 12 books in alphabetical order?
Oh, in alphabetical order? Are you kidding?
I'm kidding. You don't have to do that.
I can do it. A numbers game. All They Ever Want. Oh no, All They Ever Want. Oh yeah, numbers game. All They Ever Want.
Loves that idea. Oh, she loves the idea of another sports series.
Thank you, cool. Yeah, I'm this one, and it's really funny because I've been talking about this series for a while too, and it was to the point where I had this series, the sports one that I'm writing now, prepped and ready to go, and I had the romantic suspense series ready to go, and basically it was just the one that sold first. So the romantic suspense came first, but this one, it's kind of based. The first book is kind of based on The Proposal. He's a Scottish place kicker that his green card and everything gets all messed up because a woman that he has, I guess, been with and then kind of walked away from, she didn't file his paperwork. And so he's at this point where he needs to either be deported back to Scotland or get married. So we have him get married to in a crazy Star Wars wedding in Las Vegas to this woman with pink hair. But anyway, it's more of a rom-com, but it's a lot of fun. I've been writing it. I feel like I've been writing it for years, but not really. I'm kind of a little behind right now. The last couple of weeks have scattered my brains for writing, but I will be back in the chair tomorrow, I promise.
So are you, first, I had a question. Can you list all your books again? Or you haven't,
sure.
But yeah.
Sure. I can do, it's the first one's a numbers game. Do you want them in order of the series, or the first series, the first book's Game On, then Foolish Games, and then there's a little novella in there called A Numbers Game, then Risky Game, and then Sleeping with the Enemy. That's the 5 sports romance. And then from there, the second sports romance took place in off season in a small town in North Carolina. And there's 2 books that come out of that, Back to Before and All They Ever Wanted. And then I've got a couple with Thule before I did this series. One is part of a series of smoke jumpers. And it was really funny because they called me up and they said, hey, can you come meet me? One of the editors said, can you come meet me in the bar? We were all at a conference. And she said, I want you to write a book for us. It'll be a multi-author series. So I'm like, oh no, I'm not going to do a multi-author series. It just sounds too confusing. I'm under a deadline. I've got this other book due. And she says, well, I'm in the bar. I'll buy you a drink, and it's about hot smoke jumpers. I'm like, sold. I'll be down in 5 minutes. So we get down there, and I thought, well, this would be fun. I'll write the first book of the series. I can set up the whole world. I can do all this kind of stuff. It'll be so easy. Except it's not. If you're setting everything up, you have to know what comes behind it. So I had to wait for everybody else and set up their books in the first book. So I kind of didn't think it through when I agreed. But that's a really, really fun series, and it does very, very well. So there's 5 of us that wrote it. And then I think they did 4 or 5 more books set in Australia for smoke jumpers. And over the summer, those, sadly, because there was so much going on in Australia, but people were just buying those books because I think the hero worship of the smoke jumper at that point was pretty high. So it's a fun series.
So you were listing, did you list all? Yeah.
Okay, so that was Smolder, and then there's another one that's it's a Navy SEAL Christmas book. Gosh, I totally, is it Holiday at Magnolia Bay or Christmas at Magnolia Bay? One of them. But that's another fictional town the publisher set up, and and then these 3: Recipe for Disaster, Shot in the Dark, and Between Love and Honor. And the funny thing is, Recipe for Disaster, and I wonder if I have one here. So I was at this, you go to all these reader events and other authors are there, and Brenda Novak, everybody knows Brenda, yes, and her son has diabetes. So she does this huge fundraiser every year. I think she stopped recently, but she used to do it online for years and years on an auction. And so she gave out these awesome little swag that are, what are they called? Measuring spoons, but it's all one thing, so it's the 4 different spoons in the one thing. And I said, that's what I want to give out next time. So I want to have a book that has recipe in the title. So when I sold the book, the editor, the managing editor, she's like, yeah, we can't have that title. I'm like, no, you don't understand. I've already bought these freaking measuring spoons. We're having that title. So it's kind of funny. We argued about it, but it ended up, she was like, in the end, she was like, oh, it actually works. So sometimes you have to hold your ground. You don't always get to pick your titles or your covers ever. I haven't picked any of my covers.
These are really nice covers.
I had trouble with some of them, but we had to kind of tweak them. But I love this last one. I love to death because I actually picked that couple out. So
Deborah Fulgram asks, what was your favorite book to write, favorite series, and why? And by the way, if anybody has a question, just ask it. We will answer it. Well, hopefully, if it's within our possibilities of answering. So,
well, I always get this question, and people are just like, it's like picking your favorite child at this point. The easiest one for me to write was 100% Risky Game. And Brody was a funny character. So when I sold my first book, it was Game On, and I was already writing this South Carolina or North Carolina series. Yes, we love Brody. And so she said, okay, just have the second book be a football book, but base it in this town where your other books are. So the third book was actually supposed to be what ended up being the sixth book, I think, Back to Before. But anyway, Brody, who is in Risky Game, kind of showed up in the second book as a character and got louder and louder and so much more fun. And again, he was like my favorite child. He just kept talking and the book just kind of wrote itself. I really like that one. I'm trying to think. I have to say it's my favorite because it was the easiest to write. But each one, the one I'm working on now, I think is my favorite. I will say Between Love and Honor has some really nasty names in my house because I refer to it as the book that almost killed me. And this whole week I've been stunned by the reviews, absolutely stunned by reviewers. And I think this is the most, I think I got 25-star reviews in the first, like from bloggers. This is the most I've ever gotten. And I was like, on that book, really? Because Quinn, they're both not who they say they are at the beginning of the book. It was easy for me with Ben because I've written him for so many books and I kind of knew who he was. With Quinn, I literally had to, the book is 80,000 words. I think I deleted close to 400,000 words writing this book. It started and stopped so many times. It was painful. But I guess I got it right. And there is a very weird twist at the end of the book that you don't expect in a romance. And I'm glad I was able to pull it off. There isn't happily ever after for anybody who's out there. Don't worry. But there are some twists before they get there. And the hardest part with writing a woman who is as elusive, she has multiple identities, and I didn't know who she was first. And it took me a long time to kind of figure that out, and took her a long time to tell me. But yeah, that would be the hardest book if someone wanted to know that.
Hey, Tracy, I don't think can you give us a quick rundown on Between Love and Honor? I don't think we've done that.
Sure. But well, again, this third book in the series, and Ben he's been kind of the Boy Scout and the best friend in the other books where they're, agents, blustering agents with guns and doing stuff. He's the really smart MIT grad who is in the cybersecurity lab. Basically, he works on a keyboard all day, and you see them in the other two books. He's always helping them out and looking things up, whatever. But what people don't know is he has an alter ego, and what his friends don't know, because he is the nation's #1 cyber asset. He works directly for the Director of Homeland Security, who is a new character in this book and who people want to have her own book too. She's very cool. But anyway, he's doing all this stuff in the dark web under this code name. And even though he's not out there literally facing the bad guy face to face like his buddies, pulling guns or doing whatever, he's taking down criminals too, and he can't tell anybody about it. So he's a little, he feels like people don't see him for what he is, and they can't, because again, it's the secret identity. And he's at a White House event. They're using this artificial intelligence that he has created to do facial recognition in an instant of a time. And they're looking for someone at the White House at this big dinner. And he's screening everybody as they come in. Well, the basis of this artificial intelligence, how he set it up, was the facial recognition he uses is the girl that dumped him at the prom and disappeared the night of the prom. Like, her whole family was gone. And he's been looking for her. And of course, that's who gets identified coming through the White House. And he's chasing after her, and the lights go out at the end of chapter 1. It's a big storm and the lights go out in the White House. She disappears. And it turns out she is a spy, but you don't know whose side she's on until close to the end.
That's really
you still don't know, even at the end, you still don't know. It's kind of like, I wanted it to be like that Kevin Costner movie, No Way Out. And how they pulled that off. The whole time, this guy's a Russian spy, but you still love him at the end. And I was like, it was really hard for it in a romance novel. Your readers have to want the couple to get together. And it was really hard to make Quinn lovable enough where people would want Ben, who everybody loves in the other books. He's a sweetheart. He's the Boy Scout, would want to be with this person. So there's a lot of backtracking for their memories and, from the past, and trying to explain her past. And here's a woman who her whole past is made up. So, and she's seeing the world with him, with his friends and his family and all the things she's never had. And she's got to make a decision at the end, which she wants. And that's the whole point of the book. She's got to decide between love or honor and what she's going to do. They both do. So that's kind of, and the series, there is an epilogue. It does kind of wind it up, but I do leave someone hanging. So we'll see.
Okay.
And she wants her own story because that character is named after a real person. We give character names away at different charity events, and she is one of the ones who won character, and she's in all 3 books actually.
Okay, charity reminds me of something that we're going to come back to, but Cecilia wants to know, basically, are you a pantser or are you a plotter?
Okay, so I grew up a pantser, as we say, and I've learned that you have to be somewhat of a plotter, particularly in romantic suspense. I had to know what motivated the bad guy and who the bad guy was and, everything else beforehand. Now, I'm not one of those people who writes a 35-page synopsis and then goes through it, because at that point you've written the whole book, I do. Again, I was telling the story about Brody. I mean, I never knew he was going to drop into the book and kind of change it and want his own book. So you do have to let that happen. But lately, I've been really, I use this new program, One Book, and it will let me do each scene as the book progresses, and I kind of know what's happening. There's always room to change it because I never want to be wedded to it. But when I start a book, I always know how it's going to start. I can always see the beginning, and I can always see the ending. Sometimes I write that ending before, and then I try to put the 2 pieces together. It's like doing a puzzle. You do the outside pieces and then try to fill in the middle. And that's kind of what I do. I try to be, I'm trying to be more of a plotter because it does get a little easier if you do it that way. But I don't want to be so tied in that I can't go off in another direction, because sometimes I find things out about my characters midway through, if that makes sense.
It
sounds weird.
It does. No,
weird.
everybody has their own process. And so back to charity. Your family is on the board of a really good charity, and I wanted to give you a minute to talk about that.
Sure. It's Home Stretch in Roswell, and they work with the working homeless. It's a 18-month program, I believe. My husband's on the board, and we've been with them for many years. And they provide housing for them, and the families get education for financial education. The kids are getting tutoring. They just got this awesome trailer where the houses are in Roswell, and computers donated and tutoring on site. They were going to have a road race. They have it every year. Obviously, it was supposed to be, I think, in second weekend of April, or the first weekend. Obviously, that has been canceled. So if you're, in a giving mood, Home Stretch in Roswell is there. They're always looking for volunteers. I mean, you don't have to give money. They're always looking for volunteers to help with, with the housing and maintenance and tutoring, financial tutoring with kids, whatever. It's a great organization, and they have a tea every year. And the funny thing is I give away, we auction off Be a Character in my book. And Terry Bloodworth was one of the first people who won it, and she is the White House housekeeper. And the White House housekeeper is like being like the manager of the Four Seasons in New York. So basically, but she's in all 3 books she has in this series. And then one of the other guys won it, and he said, "No, I want to be in a sports book, and I want to be a sports agent." So he's in the book now, and he doesn't know this yet. But his mom, he's always told me these stories. Oh, this is bad. I shouldn't say this, but she's really funny, an older mom who's always kind of getting in trouble, kind of quirky. So she is the catalyst, actually, in this book. Her character he was the one who won the spot in the book, and he's in there. It's nice, but her character is the catalyst for these 2 individuals to have this, marriage of convenience, and it's a lot of fun. So, but yeah, if you're looking for someone to help, that's
we'll put their website in the comments, and I'll post it in the description of this. So if you guys are feeling charitable, I was wondering what homeless people are doing right now, and so
and these are working homeless, and I have a feeling we're going to see a little more of that in the future. Unfortunately, hopefully not. I'm hoping things are going to work out, but charities like this. There's another one, Rainbow Village, which is in Gwinnett County, very similar. just working for families that find themselves in a situation either like what we're experiencing right now, or health issues or something where they can't afford a place to live, even though they're working. So, and it happens more than you think.
No,
So.
it does. So one of the questions I always like to ask is, what were your favorite books as a kid?
Oh my gosh. What were we just talking about? Judy Blume just has a new one coming out. They're going to do Are You There, God? It's Me, Margaret. It's going to be a movie. Were you the one who put? Yes. That was a favorite. I loved a huge Laura Ingalls Wilder kid. Loved all of those. I kind of said the other day, I feel like I'm in what was the one, The Longest Winter, where they were all stayed in the house the whole time. I kind of feel like that right now. I loved, as I got older, Watership Down was a huge, when I was, I don't know, early
Heartbreaker.
teens. Yeah. I really didn't start reading romance, I think, until I was probably in high school or college. I was trying to think when I started reading that. And then I commuted a lot in DC. And so you'd read the short one, the Harlequin romance, while you're on the train, because I knew I could finish it, in a day or two. And I wasn't, when I got home with kids or whatever, I wouldn't be too wanting to get right back in the book.
A lot of great authors got their starts with Harlequin.
Yeah.
Like Nora Roberts. Yeah.
Nora, Kristen. Yeah. Well, that's what we were talking about.
Yeah.
Nora, we were talking about this is going to be, more books will probably be written while everybody's locked in. And that's kind of how Nora Roberts got her start. It was a snowstorm, and she was in her laundry room writing on longhand her first book, and sold them to Harlequin. So.
And now she's Nora Roberts.
Now she's Nora, and a lovely, lovely, lovely lady.
Oh, amazing woman.
Yeah.
She
talk about charity. She is a huge charitable organization and does quite a lot. She and her kids. It's really nice.
So whenever I have new authors coming into the store and asking for help, you're one of my go-to people. Mm-hmm. What's some advice you can give new authors?
First, stay in the chair, get your butt in the chair, and keep writing. You got to keep honing your craft. I also tell people to read a lot in the genre you want to write in, but also in other genres. I mean, right now I try not to read in my genre because I'm always afraid I'm going to pick something up that isn't mine and accidentally put in a book, subconsciously. So, but I think while you're learning and honing your craft, read as much as you can. There's also lots in this area. We're very lucky to have fabulous writing groups and libraries. I was just up at Sharon Forks Library where we did a presentation in February. They want to get a writing group together. We're working on that. Georgia Romance Writers meets, we were meeting every month. Georgia Writers, and I think there's Atlanta Writers Group. There's 3 or 4.
There's a Decatur has one too. There's a lot. Yeah. There's one coming. Deborah wants to know, what are you reading now? Since you don't read in your own genre, what do you read?
Well, right now I'm reading, was it Me, Elton, the Elton John bio? I did sneak one of my genre in the other, a couple weeks ago, kind of comfort read, Love Lettering. Fabulous. It's more women's fiction, but it's just great writing, very easy read, very relaxing for this time. I just finished Daisy Jones and the Six. Yeah. That's a good one to listen to.
That audiobook is awesome. I highly recommend it. Libro FM, guys. Libro FM is awesome. It supports indie bookstores. And Daisy Jones and the Six has a full cast of actors, and it is fabulous. Very good. Very good.
It's really funny because as a writer, because of the way that book is written, I had to read it first. I had trouble, and I don't know why, whether it's a writer's ear or whatever. And I listen to some audio, but this was one, and I knew I wanted to listen to on. I think Patty Callahan was like, Henry, she was like, you have to listen to it on audio. But I had to read it first just because I was absolutely amazed at how the author did that, because it's all told by narrative of the character.
It's written it's written in a magazine format where there's an interviewer and she interviews people in a band. It's really well done.
It's very well done, and then to listen to the audio, I was like, oh, this is great. So that was a fun one.
Yeah, no, we did it for book club. We really enjoyed it.
Our book club did it, and now we're doing Elton, and it's kind of funny. You get these ruts. We're like, oh, we were in World War II for a while. We can't do that anymore. So now we're in rock and roll.
Oh, Deborah says there's a TV show. Oh, yes, for Daisy Jones, and they're doing her other show too.
Yeah.
Other book too.
Her other book.
The Seven Husbands of Evelyn.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think they'll do a good job. Yeah.
And I think those are Netflix, right? Yeah.
Prime.
Oh, for Amazon. Okay. Yeah.
Prime.
Either
Yeah.
one.
No.
It's the Wild West.
I plan on selling a lot of those books. We have them in stock here at Read It Again. We
They're very
also
good.
have all Tracy's books in stock. And Tracy said she will run down here and sign them because she really does live like right around the corner.
Yeah.
When I say she's a local author, what I mean is she could walk to our store and not sweat. Well, it's a little hot out, but not break a sweat because she lives really close. So if anybody would like a copy of Tracy's book, we have them in stock and we can get her to sign it, and we can quarantine that book for you if you are interested. We can put it on the side. We're doing curbside pickup. We have windows set up. We also do delivery if you live close, and we can ship all over the country. I'm shipping something to Maine tomorrow. I hope that person isn't watching because it's a birthday surprise.
Uh-oh.
Surprise. What else? Tracy, it was really great to have you on here. It's always a joy to talk to you. I love it when you come into the store. Thank you for tuning in. Next week, we are talking to Casey Edwards, sci-fi author. I hope you guys can join us for that. And thank you, everybody. This was a lot of fun.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
We're rolling with the times. We can't meet in person, so let's meet online.
Yeah.
Okay, so buy lots of Tracy's books. Buy them here at Read It Again in Suwanee, Georgia. You can call us. You can email us. Jennifer, thank you, Jennifer. I'm glad. Cecilia, thank you. Everybody, thank you. Deborah, Charis, thank you, everybody, for joining in. This was a lot of fun. Okay, well, bye, guys.
Bye.